and I want to go to a question that came in over email. It was from Robert Melzarek of Montgomery, Alabama.
This question is for all the candidates. Unlike many others, I think that candidates may tell the truth, just not the whole truth and nothing but the truth. For example, when advocating position or action, candidates downplay or simply ignore likely negative side effects. Can you name a major issue where you didn't tell the whole truth and describe what you left out?
Senator Gravel?
Yes, I can tell one issue that they're not living up to. My colleagues have all said that they want public financing.
How about you, though, Senator?
No, I'm part of it, and I'm telling the truth. They can do this right now. There's nothing, and I ask for a pledge from all of them to immediately obey the law we have on the books to use public financing. They can store their money, their millions, for the general election. But right now, in the primaries, why can't they say what they promised and they said they're for? Otherwise, it means there's a little hypocrisy abroad here.
Senator Biden, what's your answer to that question?
In my public life, there hasn't been a time I haven't said what I thought. I'm sure there's times in my whole life I haven't said everything I've thought, and many times I've said too much of what I did think. But my problem isn't saying what I think. My problem is saying too much about what I think. I honestly can't think of an issue in the United States Congress where I haven't straightforwardly said why I was voting that way, and I said it straight up.
Congressman Kucinich, you?
My entire life, I've been saying things that other people were afraid to say and have been consistently proven right. So this is what I do. And in the White House, I'll let the American people know exactly what's going on, our path to peace, the not-for-profit health care, education for all. That's the kind of president that the American people want, straight from the shoulder.
Senator Obama?
Well, I think there are a number of issues where there are going to be some choices we've got to make and some sacrifices involved. Now, I'll give you one specific example, and that's on energy. All of us on this stage have talked about global warming and how it is a moral imperative for us to do something about this to ensure that we're passing on a livable planet to our children and our grandchildren. There will be some costs involved. We can't do it on the cheap. There's some things that we can do to conserve energy, but all of those steps are going to require a little bit of hardship and a little bit of pinching. And that's something that we don't have enough of a discussion about. I've tried to. I went to Detroit, and in front of a bunch of automakers, I said, we've got to raise fuel efficiency standards on cars. And the silence was deafening in the room. But those are the kinds of choices I think that the next president is going to have to advance and have an honest conversation with the American people about.
Senator Edwards?
Wasn't the question whether there's ever been anything that we didn't say?
That's what I'm asking you the question, right?
That's what I thought it was. I think in my case that would be true about my vote on the war in Iraq. I was wrong to vote for this war, but beyond that, I had huge internal conflict at the time about giving George Bush this authority. And I did talk about, as all these other candidates have just said, I did talk about the things that persuaded me to cast the vote. But what I didn't express was the huge conflict I had, because I did not trust George Bush. It turns out I was right not to have trusted him, and I cast the wrong vote. But that's the one time, and probably the single biggest time that I can think of.
Senator Clinton?
Well, I, too, regret giving George Bush the authority that he misused and abused. It was a very difficult decision, and I tried to weigh it as carefully as possible, talking to a lot of different people, and being assured both publicly and privately by President Bush and the people close to him that they would use the authority to go in and get inspectors and try to find out if there were weapons of mass destruction and pursue diplomacy. So, you know, looking back on it, I wouldn't have voted that way again, certainly, because obviously President Bush had no intention of doing what he said he was going to do. And obviously, for me, that is a great regret.
But did you tell the whole truth when discussing it?
Well, as I saw it, yes. You know, similar to John, you know, when the President of the United States says, as he said publicly, and then as people around him said privately over and over again, we're going to use this authority to get inspectors back in, we're going to go to the United Nations. you know, at some point you do have to make that evaluation. And I thought that based on what he had said and what we were talking about at the time in the Congress, that would be an appropriate approach. I would never have diverted our attention to Iraq, and I never would have pursued this war. I think that has been a terrible mistake for our country.
Were you tricked, Senator Clinton?
You know, I think the question was about past regrets and mistakes. I'm making at this rate about one mistake a week. And, you know, I make a lot of misstatements. I'm not the scripted candidate. But I think when the chips are down, when the time comes to get hostages out from Saddam Hussein or persuade the North Koreans to reduce their nuclear arsenal or bring back remains of American servicemen, I perform. But the reality is what the American people want is a president who says, I will follow the Constitution of the United States. I will not go to war unless the Congress authorizes me to go to war. And we're going to get rid of those blemishes that America has, like Guantanamo, like eavesdropping on our citizens, like policies of torture, like returning habeas corpus. I think if we simply say that we are in an America of checks and balances where the judiciary and the executive and the legislative branches have an equal role, that we're honoring the principles of freedom where America stands, then that's when that enormous confidence that people will have in our country will come back.
Senator Dodd, where didn't you tell the whole truth?
Well, I'll tell you one issue that I wish I had done more on recently. I think maybe one of the worst votes cast in the Congress, maybe in the last 20 years, was last fall on the Military Commissions Act, in which we allowed the abandonment of habeas corpus, returning torture, and abandoning the Geneva Convention. I thought about filibustering that bill, and I didn't do it. I regret that deeply. I can't think of a worse vote we cast to walk away from the Constitution of the United States. And I'm committed on January 20th to bring that Constitution back. I wish I'd said more.
Senator Dodd, thank you.